What's up, everybody? Welcome back if you are a subscriber. If not, then just welcome. I'm going to be showing you how to blend a panel. Remember, blend is your friend. What you just saw me do was match my color chip. That's always a very crucial step that a lot of people don't do. They just trust the spray, the color code, and they just blast away. So yeah, first off, you're gonna usually want to make a couple spray outs. Use separate cards so that way when you tint, you can see which direction you're going in. Luckily, this color was pretty close the way I had it, so I just decided to leave it. Right now, very important step. First, of course, you wax and grease remove everything, and make sure you wipe off all the wax and grease remover before it evaporates. Do it in small sections because that can actually cause fish eyes. So what I'm doing right now is tacking down the car with air. I'm not blowing any material onto the car. I'm just tacking it down just to get any loose dust off. Now when I tack, I like to blow with the same amount of air pressure that I would be using when I'm clear coating. Reason being is because if you're using the same pressure or a little more than when you clear coat, chances are you're going to blow the dust out of the cracks that would come out at the same PSI or less. So yeah, thoroughly tack your edges, go around, get everything clean. I pulled a full-on stupid on this one and I didn't mask the window, as you can see. I'll catch that later. But yeah, full rookie move. I was in a big hurry this day. But yeah, my prepper, unfortunately, he really ruined the bodywork section, created a big halo. Instead of blocking with a regular block, he blocked, you see on the two sides of the bodywork, I don't know if you can see it, it's busted through. But anyway, what I'm spraying on right now is colorless base coat. Now, I would recommend doing this on metallic blends, or any blend for that matter, because what happens is, even if you're doing a solid color, maybe anything but black, what happens is when you're doing a blend, little droplets fly out as you kick out your blend. So what happens is, not only do you end up with a rough surface, you also end up with what can appear as like little dots in your job. So this is what's called a wet bed. You lay down colorless base coat, and then you just want to cover, see those two busted through areas? I probably should have sealed this first. This isn't the best job I've done, but I just wanted to give you guys a rough idea of the process of blending. So you always cover the primer spot first, or your trouble area first. You give it a couple coats of base until it's covered, and then you're gonna start kicking out your blend. So right now I'm laying down another wet bed, and in between coats, this is all personal preference, you just want to make sure it's flashed off really good. You can take a final tack cloth, the one that's not so sticky. It's a little more coarse, I guess you could say. It pulls off basically any trash that's standing up, things like that. And yeah, so I just laid down another wet bed for the metallics to land and kind of spread out evenly, so that way you don't end up with a halo, or there's a whole number of reasons why a wet bed is effective, and it's I'll explain it a little more later. So right now I've got my base coat and I'm kicking it out. That's my blend. So I'm just flying the color out, and usually want to go at like a horizontal angle. Notice how I'm getting like less and less away as I go to the top. The reason for that is to kind of trick the eyeball into, you're not going to see a vertical line up and down on the panel. You're going to see more of a transition. If you have an eye for it, you'll be able to see the angle of the transition, I should say. It's a better method. rather than just straight blending up and down. So again, I'm covering it with a wet bed, not only to create a smooth surface so that it doesn't follow in the path of those dry particles from the throwout on the blend, but it'll also give me a better foundation for my clear coat. Now, some people may say, oh, why are you going all the way up to the edge? You know, you're gonna change the color. And to each his own. I can say that can happen, yes. So if you are uncomfortable with that, you can throw your wet bed and just stop a few inches shy of the panel. So, you know, once you get all your base coat on, I put down that last wet bed, like I said, to make it nice and smooth. I tacked it down. I didn't videotape that, sorry. Getting ready for my clear coat. And so right now I am going to mix this 4-to-1. This is the Chromax G27779S. It's a medium solids clear 4-to-1. I personally like the DC3000 or 4000 from PPG. It's a high solids clear. It's like the same price relatively. This is such a thin clear. It's really easy to run. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's really not that user friendly. I spray it out of a 1.2. I find that's my favorite tip size to spray it out of. So once again, I've got my GTI Pro Light in this one. We use 3M PPS, second generation. So it's, I love the system actually. It's really great, real quick to clean. So yeah, you flip it over, make sure there's no leaks coming out or whatever. You know, you can hang it up on the rack, wait a couple seconds, you can do whatever you want. Just want to make sure that thing's not leaking, because I've had it happen to me before. You get halfway through a job, you're clearing, and then it drips onto the panel and you're like, crap. So I set my pressure to about 18 pounds at the regulator on the gun, which translates to probably about 24 pounds at the gun at the bottom. It's a little different. If you close the fan all the way, it reads the same as the regulator would at the bottom, but as you open it, it's different. So you just got to get used to the DeVilbiss digital gauges if you ever do use them. If not, a medium solids clear. I wouldn't run 28 psi if you're in a humid environment. I mean, it's up to you really what orange peel type you're looking for, but me, I like a thicker, more European type look. So I'll usually drop my psi just a little bit and I'll go from there. So here I am with the final tack cloth, just going over the surface, trying to get rid of as many contaminants as I can, because you know, you always want to think of the next guy in line. Who is going to be having to deal with your mess if you create one? And that's going to be the buffer. So, you know, I could be a dirt bag and just leave all the little nibs in there and, you know, not care. But, you know, like I always say, just try and stay humble and, you know, don't get cocky. I mean, you got to remember, even the buffers and the apprentices, they're trying to learn, and you don't want to spoil their experience by being a dirtbag or a dickhead. So just be cool, and you know, and also it's about taking pride in your work. I always find that, you know, it's much more rewarding at the end of the day when you come out and you've got a job that looks beautiful, customer goes away happy, everything's just so much better. So yep, I lied about the tacking thing. I did videotape it, I just didn't think I did. The blend didn't look real good to me there, so I'm just throwing a little bit more of color just to kind of even that out. And since it was such a thin coat, you really don't need any time in between. It's probably flashed off or nearly flashed off by now. By the time I get there with my gun, it will be. So no need to tack after that, because I mean the surface is relatively clean. You just cleaned it and you just put one coat on there, and it was at low pressure. So I like to start off, like I said, this is a cross flow booth, and I go about maybe 18 inches into the next panel. And the reason being, I always say this, is because you don't want to have excessive buildup on the edges of the door panels, or any panel for that matter, because a thick edge, it just looks, it's almost like a big run down the whole side of the door. Yeah, it's just ugly in my opinion. And I mean, if you like that look or whatever, that's your call. Do what you want to do. There's no wrong way, but our job is to replicate the OEM finish. So when the car came in, there were no thick edges, and so it's gonna leave like that. You know, this clear is right between fast and slow, thick and thin. It's such an odd clear. I do not recommend it. If I had it my way, I would switch back to stand dogs, but in our environment, we were just getting so many fisheyes. The reps were coming out and just they couldn't get it to work either, so we switched to Chromax because it's a little faster. It doesn't have time to gas out and create those solvent pop or anything like that. So yeah, I go about 75% overlap. And I, you know, always make sure your edges are wet, especially like right underneath the window where the belt molding would go. That's a spot where a lot of painters, they'll miss, and it's very frustrating for the buffers because you get dry spray right there, and it's a terrible spot to have to buff. Been there. So yep, first coat's on, it flashed, you know. You can always tell when it's ready to go when you stick your finger on the plastic or the paper or the tape or whatever you just cleared, the wettest spot, the last spot that you hit, and it is sticky, not stringy, but sticky. It should be tacky, not slippery, not stringy. Stringy, you're almost there. Just wait a little bit more, maybe like 2 more minutes, and it should be pretty good to go. Now I like to be about 4 to 8 inches away from the panel, depending on what I'm spraying. You'll notice sometimes I'm up pretty close. Yeah, from there you just want to go about 75% overlap. So just continue your stroke where you left off, completing the rest of the door. Second coat's going on. Angle your gun to the contours of the car. So right now I'm backed up a little bit, but I'm also moving a little slower, if you notice. So I don't know, for some reason I just feel a little more comfortable, I guess, when I get to the top of the door, like right above the door handle. I tend to get a little closer. I don't know why. I didn't even really notice I was doing that until I started watching videos of myself doing it. So yeah, so just keep going around, you know. I mean, there is a wrong way to do it, but technically there's no wrong way, just as long as you can achieve, if you achieve the result that you're looking for, then there is no wrong way to paint a car. I've seen painters do the weirdest shit, and it works for them. Here's a picture after it came out of the booth. I put the headlight on, and as you can see, it's got a nice finish to it. The window is taped up. Color matches against the door. Now always remember, blend is your friend, and never ever be afraid to just blend that next panel. Rule of thumb is usually halfway. If the bodywork is halfway through the panel, then you want to blend it out. With that said, I hope you guys learned some stuff. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below.